I have a few news articles to speak about that are impacting women across the globe. So, this article from Al Jazeera is talking about what is going on over in Uganda as far as women's reproductive rights, which are not very many rights. So, this one's titled It's Needless Death. Ugandan activists decry restrictive abortion laws. At exactly 3:21 p.m. on August 25th, Moses Odongo received a call informing him that his 14-year-old cousin Christine had died attempting to terminate an unwanted pregnancy. Odongo, who is 40, had just returned home and was sitting down for a drink and a bite to eat. His grief at her untimely death quickly mixed with anger at Uganda's restrictive abortion laws and conservative culture, which he believes took her out. This is a problem we are all responsible for. We have let down this girl. We have not provided young people with education. We do not allow anyone to even mention the word abortion. Odongo is the founder and executive director of Family Medical Point, a nonprofit that carries out informational programs and operates small health centers in Entebbe, a city neighboring the Ugandan capital, Kampala. Unclear laws. Abortion is highly restricted in Uganda. Both the women who seek it out and the doctors who provide it can face criminal prosecution. Uganda's constitution says that abortion is illegal unless provided for under the law, but there is no definitive legislation on it in the country. A colonial era penal code punishes women terminating a pregnancy with 7 years in prison and doctors performing the procedure with 14 unless the mother's life is at risk. However, guidelines from the Ministry of Health contradict the penal code by also allowing termination in cases of fetal anomalies and of rape. A more comprehensive set of instructions on when it can be performed was issued and then withdrawn by the Ministry of Health in 2017. Ambiguity and fear of imprisonment means doctors turn away women looking for care, experts told Al Jazeera. The women, influenced by misinformation, then resort to extreme and dangerous measures to rid themselves of unplanned pregnancies. The confusion leads to no access whatsoever to the service because anyone who does it assumes they're doing it illegally and could be sent to prison, explained Prima Kwagala, a lawyer and director of a Kampala-based legal nonprofit, the Women's Pro Bono Initiative. She sits behind a computer, bedecked with bumper stickers celebrating the right to choose, a copy of Uganda's constitution open in front of her. Kwagala is part of a team of lawyers fighting to challenge Uganda's laws and broaden access to health services. So that's going on in Uganda. Let's move over to Afghanistan, where we know that the Taliban has basically erased women and girls over there. This article from the BBC, a child bride won the right to divorce. Now the Taliban say it doesn't count. So here is Nazdana. That's who we're going to be talking about in this article. There is a young woman sheltering under a tree between two busy roads, clutching a pile of documents to her chest. These pieces of paper are more important to Bibi Nazdana than anything in the world. They are the divorce granted to her after a 2-year court battle to free herself from a life as a child bride. They are the same papers a Taliban court has invalidated. A victim of the group's hardline interpretation on Sharia religious law, which has seen women effectively silenced in Afghanistan's legal system. Nazdana's divorce is one of tens of thousands of court rulings revoked since the Taliban took control of the country 3 years ago this month. It took just 10 days from them sweeping into the capital, Kabul, for the man she was promised to at 7 to ask the courts to overturn the divorce ruling she had fought so hard for. Hek Mutala had initially appeared to demand his wife when Nazdana was 15. It was 8 years since her father had agreed to what was known as a bad marriage, which seeks to turn a family enemy into a friend. She immediately approached the court, then operating under the U.S.-backed Afghan government, for a separation, repeatedly telling them that she could not marry the farmer, now in his 20s. It took 2 years, but finally a ruling was made in her favor. The court congratulated me and said, you are now separated and are free to marry whomever you want. But after Hekmutullah appealed the ruling in 2021, Nazdana was told she would not be allowed to plead her own case in person. At the court, the Taliban told me I shouldn't return to court because it was against Sharia. They said my brother should represent me instead. They told us if we didn't comply, Shams, Nazdana's 28-year-old brother, they would they would hand my sister over to him, Hekmutullah, by force. Her former husband, and now a newly signed up member of the Taliban, won the case. Shams' attempt to explain to the court in their home province of Uruzgan that her life would be in danger fell on deaf ears. The siblings decided they had been left with no choice but to flee. When the Taliban returned to power 3 years ago, they promised to do away with the corruption of the past and deliver justice under Sharia, a version of Islamic law. Since then, the Taliban say they have looked at some 355,000 cases. Most were criminal cases. An estimated 40% are disputes over land, and a further 30% are family issues, including divorce, like Nazdana's. Nazdana's divorce ruling was dug out after the BBC got exclusive access to the back offices of the Supreme Court in the capital, Kabul. Abdul Wahid Haqqani, media officer for Afghanistan Supreme Court, confirms the ruling in favor of Hekmatullah, saying it was not valid because he wasn't present. The previous corrupt administration's decisions to cancel Hekmatullah and Nazdana's marriage was against the Sharia and rules of marriage, he explains. But the promises to reform the justice system have gone further than simply reopening settled cases. The Taliban have also systematically removed all judges, both male and female, and replaced them with people who supported their hardline views. Women were also declared unfit to participate in the judicial system. Women aren't qualified to or able to judge because in our Sharia principles, the judiciary work requires people with high intelligence, says Abdullah Rahim Rashid, Director of Foreign Relations and Communications at the Taliban Supreme Court. I feel so bad for what these women over in Afghanistan are going through and how they have effectively been just, erased. And the world, the UN or some world nation needs to swoop in and help rescue them. This is slavery. Now let's move over to Paris. Hundreds rally in streets of Paris to support world reproductive rights. France is the first country with a constitutional right to terminate a pregnancy. Hundreds of people came out in Paris on Saturday marching in support of the right to terminate for women across the world, just 6 months after France became the first country to guarantee in its constitution a woman's right to voluntarily terminate a pregnancy. The protest, organized by civil society groups to mark International Safe Swimmertion Day, also called for greater and easier access to termination in France, denouncing budget cuts, staff reduction, and the closure of swimmertion centers and maternity wards, which organizers say all contribute to penalizing women. Sarah Durocher, president of France's not for profit Family Planning Services, said French women sometimes have to travel to another region to access medical services needed to abort, denouncing the obstacle course they sometimes face. Thibault Thomas said the ongoing trial of the man who confessed to drugging his wife so that dozens of men could grape her while she was unconscious was one of the reasons that motivated him to attend the protest on Saturday. There's a mood in France, a particular context with the Mazan trial, he said, referring to the name of the small province where the couple had bought their retirement home and where the repeated rapes occurred. This sweeps away all the excuses or all the mitigating circumstances that we thought could have existed before. In fact, it is something broader, generalized. Earlier this year, France became the only country to explicitly guarantee a woman's right to voluntarily terminate a pregnancy when lawmakers overwhelmingly approved a bill to enshrine termination rights into the Constitution. Submersion in France has been legal since 1975 and enjoys widespread support across most of the political spectrum, but they don't want to do what the United States did and just look the other way while the conservatives just whittle away at the rights of women. All right, y'all. I know I've done 3 different stories in this one video. Please go let me know what you think. If there are any stories that you think I need to check out globally or here in the United States, please go ahead and drop it in the comments. Don't forget to like, comment, and share.